I've been coaching weight loss for close to a decade now, and I can tell you one thing for sure, without doubt, the biggest thing that holds people back from achieving insane weight loss results that last their entire life, it's not ultra-processed foods, it's not even going keto, it's not intermittent fasting. It's fixing your self-talk. And in this video, I'm going to show you how your inner dialogue has kept you trapped inside a body that you hate, spinning around with your weight loss results, losing the same 5 pounds and gaining it back again your entire life. What's more is I'm going to show you exactly how you can fix it immediately today so that you can start seeing weight loss results inside the next 90 days and beyond. This video is going to completely transform the way that you diet forever. So you've tried to start a new habit or change a behavior, and after a few weeks you've already given up. Sound familiar? That's because it's the same problem that faces millions of people when they're trying to lose weight. They haven't yet figured out that it's much less about what you eat and far more about how and why you eat. More specifically, why you can't stop eating at times. This is why our entire coaching philosophy at Virtue Health is centered around fixing this specific problem. Because by now, everyone knows roughly what to do to lose weight, but the biggest problem that people have is sticking to this diet, whatever they choose, long enough to see results. So, if you've ever tried changing a habit or a behavior, but you failed with it, what's actually happening? You might think that you're not disciplined enough or you just don't want it badly enough. If that's what you're thinking right now, I sincerely apologize. It's my industry of fitness coaches and nutritionists that have led you to think that way. For decades now, the fitness industry has been laying the blame at the feet of our clients, telling them that it's their fault or they need to be more motivated or they just need to try harder. It's easy for us as coaches who've dedicated a whole lifestyle to achieving great results and staying in shape all the time. And we don't have the consideration to think about how other people live their lives and the challenges that they face. We see it as something that's easy to do. It's easy to go to the gym, easy to eat healthy all the time. So we just cannot understand when our clients don't show up that way. Now, whilst I've worked with my fair share of clients who are so resistant to change that they basically put their feet up and expect results to just fall into their lap with zero hard work whatsoever, I always encourage my own clients to own it and take responsibility for their choices and ultimately their results. But one thing I will never do is just blame people for not wanting to lose weight badly enough. It's just tone deaf in my opinion. The challenge with making habits stick is actually further downstream, and it's unfortunately a layer underneath what most coaches understand. It starts with your self-talk. What? I thought this was all going to be about discipline, calorie deficits, and hitting your protein target every day. Sure, there's the practical side to losing weight. That is the stuff that you have to do. Things like keto and intermittent fasting are just tools to make that stuff more achievable. I'm here to show you how to do all that stuff with less friction so that you can be more consistent for longer and get better weight loss results as a consequence. So why do I need to work on my self-talk? Let me explain to you exactly how I see this working. The first thing that you have going on is your thoughts, and they appear in your mind throughout the day. Next thing that happens is those thoughts start to spin a story and a narrative in your mind. For example, if you always believe thoughts like, I struggle with motivation, I've never been disciplined enough in the past, or I have a thyroid problem, or I don't like exercising. All of these thoughts begin to form the narrative and the story that you tell yourself every day. When you repeat that story over and over again, it starts to form your identity. Begin to associate your identity with the story that you're telling yourself, whether it's positive or negative. Over time, your identity is going to inform your attitudes and your beliefs. If you identify as someone who's always struggled with their weight, who always fails on a diet, guess what your attitude to dieting is going to be? Pretty shitty. When your attitude is, oh, well, this might not work, or it's never worked for me in the past, or it's too much effort, or I don't believe I can do this, your beliefs and behaviors will follow on from that. If you have no belief in your ability to follow through with this, if you think it's going to be too hard, if you believe that you'll have to sacrifice too much to achieve your goals, you're not going to behave in a way that's consistent with who you want to become. Downstream from this, your behaviors are self-sabotaging and erratic, and you can't really put yourself in the position to be successful consistently enough. So, whilst everyone focuses on the top of the pyramid up here with their behaviors and their habits, those things are so much harder to achieve consistently if we haven't got an underpinned layer of positive thoughts, positive self-talk, and a strong narrative that builds an identity for you. But Alex, how do I improve my self-talk? I don't know what to do. Great question. I really do wish that I had some advanced tactic or trick or fix that could solve all your problems immediately in 60 seconds. The reality of that is very different, and I want to be completely transparent about that. Both you and I at this stage know through enough trial and error and pain that the quick fix diet hack that fixes everything once and for all is unrealistic. And anyone who's peddling that and pushing it to you is trying to sell something and they're being disingenuous. However, if you joined our program and you wanted to fix your self-talk so that you can make weight loss a guaranteed outcome for the rest of your life with as little effort as possible, here is exactly what I would do. I would tell you that the first step is awareness. You cannot change anything without first being currently aware of what you're doing and what you're getting wrong. The solution, or the first place that we would start from, is noticing your daily narrative. How do you talk to yourself when you look in the mirror? When you squeeze into your work uniform every morning? Or when you're faced with tempting foods? Is that language helpful to you, or is it actually something that lowers your self-esteem and reinforces the belief in the attitude that you can't do this and you should just give up? Most people are probably unaware of how their narrative sounds on a daily basis, or they're just unaware of how much damage it's actually doing. And if you don't know by now, low self-esteem is one of the driving factors behind guilt eating and self-sabotaging. We believe that we're not worth it, so we don't act in a way that shows up for our best self. Bad news is, you cannot hate your way into body confidence. The good news is, I can show you how to fix it. First, you have to accept who you are currently in this moment. Then you have to begin acting in a way that shows appreciation and self-respect for you. I've said this countless times, but when your self-esteem is low and your self-respect is low, you will show up with self-sabotaging habits. What about when you're faced with hunger and temptation? Do you use language that lifts and encourages you to be stronger? Or does your internal narrative drive you to give up on yourself? Do you focus only on the negative outcome or only on the temptation that's in front of you? If so, guess what's more likely to be at the forefront of your mind? The only place that you can begin to work on this is by holding a diary. We call it a food journal, and it's a place where our clients inside our program can write down some of their daily thoughts and narrative on how they felt, how their hunger levels were, if they notice any triggers like stress, boredom, or emotions, how their self-talk was on that day. It allows you to actually tease out, okay, how is my internal narrative? How is my self-talk? Is it driving me to better standards and better behavior every day? Or is it undercutting me, undervaluing my self-esteem, and causing me to self-sabotage? When you've found a common thread of self-talk that you're not happy with or you feel like needs to improve, you need to ask yourself these questions off the back of it. Is this helpful for my goals? Is this how I would talk to my best friend? If I had a coach or an accountability partner who followed me around at every moment and heard myself talking to myself like this, what would they think? How would they encourage me to think differently? If you wouldn't feel comfortable or happy putting these thoughts on a megaphone and having everyone around you hear them, you know that this needs to be addressed. And you can try all the diet hacks, all the recipes, all the calorie plans in the world, but nothing will work until you fix your self-talk. Because your self-talk will ultimately lower your self-esteem, lower your resilience, and cause you to self-sabotage at multiple different points until you learn to get it working for you. Write it down, put it in the notes file on your phone. I always find it particularly helpful to physically cross something out on a piece of paper if I no longer want that belief to show up in my life. When I've identified a belief that's limiting or is causing me to self-sabotage or is holding me back from a behavior I really want to pursue, I challenge myself to whether it's true or if it's a self-limiting belief that's designed to stop me from trying. When I've decided that this belief no longer serves me, I physically cross it out on the page in front of me, and it's almost deleted from my mind in that way. Just be prepared to work on this for a really long time. So now that you've got a starting point to actually address your self-talk, notice it more often, and to try and improve on it in an active way, there's one thing I need you to remember about this. It will not be an instant fix. Self-esteem isn't something that you can just click overnight and suddenly it's all gone, it's all disappeared away. Especially if you've struggled with your weight, your body confidence, and your self-esteem for years, you've been programmed in a way to always talk shit about yourself, to always cap your beliefs and your goals to something that's more realistic. Because in this way, you're not damaging your ego. If you really try and really aspire to reach something and you fail, your self-esteem is going to take a huge hit. The number one thing I always remind my clients when we're working on their beliefs, their identity, their internal narrative is you're going to have to fight this battle more than once to win it. There's nothing that I can say in this video that's magically going to make your self-talk immaculate for the rest of time. In fact, you'd be surprised how many people you aspire and look up to whose self-talk is awful and they still just find a way to navigate it, disprove it, mark it as a disbelief, and move forward in a positive way. Personally, I battle with this all the time, both in my fitness, in my business, in my career. I'm always looking at people who have things that I aspire to and thinking, I could never achieve that, or I can't do that because of X. It is a constant battle and a constant worry, and not just for your weight loss goals, but for your overall happiness and peace in life. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of self-awareness to work through your narrative and your thoughts every day. It sounds like shitty advice, but truthfully, you do just kind of have to fake it until you make it. James Clear talks about the vote system all the time. If you really struggle to picture yourself as an athlete or a healthy person or someone who just keeps disciplined when things are tough, it's because you don't have a bank of evidence for it yet. You haven't done enough behaviors, you haven't put enough votes in the bank for who that person is going to become. With enough votes, enough behaviors, enough habits stacked up over time, you start to have evidence, a bank of evidence that proves to you you are the person you're trying to become. or you're capable of doing tough things. Personally, I don't think the limiting self-talk ever really goes away. We're comfort-seeking creatures by nature. Fighting off temptation and instant gratification is really difficult. The purpose of our program is not to make weight loss feel as easy as possible. It's to make you feel anti-fragile. Because the people who want the easy route, the people who want the fast route, the people who want it to be less work on them, guess what they're not doing? They're not showing up with responsibility and ownership for their choices, hoping that someone else can fix the problem, push the button, and they'll never have to worry or stress about these things again. But that is an unrealistic expectation. I would much rather that our program built anti-fragile people who showed up when things get difficult, who took responsibility for themselves, and didn't quit at the first time of failure. Because that's the kind of person who loses weight sustainably and keeps it off, without sacrificing their social life, without really dieting into a hole for 6 to 12 weeks. So if you've been focusing all of your time, effort, and money up until now trying to change the same thing over and over again, I hope this video has changed your thinking on what's possible for you and where to put your attention going forward. If you're someone who doesn't struggle with their weight and you've just come on to watch this video and leave some negative bullshit in the comments, please go ahead. By all means, I'll read them, laugh at you, cry a little bit, wipe my tears, and then move on with my fucking day. Either way, I hope this video made your life a little bit easier. And if it did, consider sharing it with someone who you think might need to hear it. And subscribe to get more of these videos on a weekly basis so that you can change your diet mindset to be more resilient and keep your weight loss results long term.